Andrew, thanks very much indeed. Hello and welcome from us. Well, as we've been hearing, the weekend polling is suggesting nationally little to separate the main parties. What does that mean for the Conservatives in London, though, where the party are thought to be trailing well behind Labour? And why is it that their core message of a recovering economy may not be persuading voters here in the part of the country where growth has been strongest? Andrew Cryan has this.
We used to come in and buy kippers.
Well, we still sell the kippers at the back.
Some kippers.
John Major, the ordinary man from Brixton, was the heart of the Conservatives' 1992 election campaign. It was the last time they won a majority in Parliament.
Immediately opposite there, that is where we lived. Is it still there?
And also the last time they won a majority of seats in London.
It is. It's still there.
Now, the Conservatives made a much bigger play of it than just having a video of John Major driving up and down this street. They even produced posters that said, "What do the Conservatives offer a working-class kid from Brixton?" Their answer, well, they make him Prime Minister. But now, with David Cameron at the helm, that's not a slogan they can really use.
Indeed, according to one of the UK's leading experts in inequality, the last 5 years in London have seen the rich get richer and the poor poorer.
In the last 5 years, under this government, the coalition government, the rich have got much richer, particularly the super rich, who have doubled their wealth in 5 years, and the poor have got poorer. So the poorest fifth of people in Britain, and particularly in London, are now the poorest in Western Europe.
One pasta, one tomatoes.
For some, a symbol of increased hardship in the last 5 years has been the growth in food banks. People are referred here by organisations like Citizens Advice if they're struggling with things like low pay, illness or benefits problems. Then they're given 3 days emergency food. Visits to London food banks have gone up tenfold in the last 3 years.
One single dad I met recently who his youngest is 18 months old, and he was about to be evicted when we met him because he got into rent arrears because he'd been spending everything he could on food. He was the one who was not eating between Friday and Sunday so that he'd have enough food for his children over the weekend, and he was just doing everything within his power to care for his children in a brilliant way, but that was the limit of his power at that point.
The Conservatives are going into this election promising further reductions to the benefits bill, but also a series of tax cuts for the better off. There'll be no inheritance tax on estates worth up to £1 million, a particular help for people with property in London. The 40% high rate of income tax will only kick in at $50,000 rather than the $43,000 at present. And even the party's proposal not to charge any income tax on earnings up to £12,500 is a policy which helps the well-off the most, according to some of the country's most respected number crunchers.
Low-income individuals don't benefit from an income tax cut because their income is too low, partly because that's always been true, partly because of the success of the coalition's policy to increase the personal allowance to £10,000 a year. The group that benefits most are two-earner couples. They can benefit twice over from the increase in the personal allowance. They tend to be around the middle and upper middle of the income distribution, so that's where the biggest gains are from this policy.
Towards an olive? I'm doing it. Go on, get stuck in, folks.
You need a label on the front.
Go for your life. Towards an olive.
Even Boris Johnson this week said the gap between the rich and the poor was now too big, but maintains that it's the Conservatives who have the best plan to help the worst off.
This is a city that has seen an increase in employment of 527,000 people. You've seen unemployment go down. As we support businesses like this behind us, we cut their business rates, we make sure they keep their national insurance low, we support out London high streets, because we believe that if you support the wealth-creating sector of the economy, then you will be able to pay for the great public services that we need.
Are we in now?
But while one Conservative might get a rock-star reception on the streets, don't let that fool you. The Tories are trailing in the polls across the capital and are widely expected to lose seats. But why is that the case, given that London is the epicentre of the UK's economic growth?
As London has got richer and richer relative to the rest of the UK, and not just for the last 5 years, its voting habits have tilted leftwards, and so to the point that London is now moving towards being a Labour city. Now, explaining this is difficult. what you can say is, of course, there are other rich cities like New York and Paris that have a liberal voting record. That does happen sometimes in very big cities. And then, of course, there's the growth in people renting homes. I think all of these things together may have contributed to this phenomenon.
And with this week's election expected to be the closest in decades, if the Conservatives once again fail to win London, it seems likely they may also fail to form a government.